Christine was a Bernie Sanders delegate in 2016, and that's how I got to know her. We were part of the delegation together. And soon after the primary, everybody was getting really activated, and, she's also an environmental activist, and we were showing up at anti-fracking events together and demonstrations for Standing Rock. And when I was doing stories on charter schools, I would always call her up and say, okay, tell me what's going on. Because New York State is severely underfunded when it comes to public education, despite being a Democratic state, as California is too, which is why I wanted to talk about this. But Christine decided in a special election, after Trump got elected, there was an opportunity for her to run for assembly. And within 4 months of Trump's election, she flipped her Long Island district, which won with Trump by 20 points. She flipped it 40 points and won. And I think there's a message here in that a lot of these districts across the country that we just haven't played in, Democrats thought were unwinnable, can be won when you have a working class candidate talking about issues like funding education and environmental. So now Assemblywoman Pellegrino is running against a Republican state senator and in Long Island. And it's actually a district that's more Democratic leaning. So Christine, can you just talk a little bit about your district and some of the key issues that are at stake in your district alone?
Sure. Thank you so much, Nomi. I can't thank you enough for your help and support and to be here today. I'm a little bit off the campaign trail today. Some of the important the issues that we've always faced are funding our public schools, supporting our environment, protecting our coastline. And something that you might be familiar with is the overdevelopment of our community and the influence of real estate and how we have politicians that are in the pockets of real estate. The industry is infiltrating and it is something that's affecting us here on Long Island as well. And that is taking money out of our and away from our children. And
we lost your
have
video,
a senator.
Christine, are you
Yep,
still there?
I'm
There
here.
you go. Oh, there you are.
We have a senator who's in the pocket of the real estate industry and takes money away from the funding of our schools. And we have to make sure that we have somebody who stands up and fights for every dollar that we deserve.
It's interesting because there's a similar fight happening in California. There are two industries that basically held up the New York State Senate. For those of you who don't know, up until 2 years ago, for decades, in New York State, a Democratic state, you had a Senate that was elected to be Democrat. You had 8 senators that were Democrats caucusing with Republicans holding up the Senate, but they were all funded by real estate developers and charter schools. Yep. And those are the two industries that were holding everything up. Yep. Everything up. Reproductive rights, reproductive justice, safe issues, gun reform legislation. So Assemblymember Pellegrino, the reason why I think two things are happening here, right? In New York, while it's a Democratic state, it's extremely tight. So if you have, dollars to spare for either one of these candidates here, Fatima or Christine, please do so, because these are races. I mean, we love our congressional members. We love the ones that are in safe districts that are there fighting for us. But right now, you have folks that are in really tight races locally that don't have the national presence, even when they're endorsed by Bernie Sanders. He's endorsing a lot of candidates. So we have to do all we can to help them buy their last mailer to fight that off. So, Christine, you're running against a Republican, and they're out for blood. Like in New York politics, they want that Senate back. There is a majority, but they need a supermajority so that there are more voices like yours and Jabari Brisport, who's going to be a senator. He doesn't have a real contested race now. But Christine, you're on mute right now. Can you tell us a little bit about your opponent and his record?
Yeah. So my opponent is a Republican. He is one of the last remaining of the Long Island Nine. He was
what does that mean, the Long Island Nine?
So the bastion of Republican senators from Long Island who sort of came in under this red control of the Republican Senate that did hold up common sense legislation and women's health, safety, and how about electoral reforms
Oh my God,
that
huge,
we currently enjoy, right? We have early voting now. We have absentee ballot curing bills that make sure that every ballot is counted. Really important legislation that has been moved forward. How about the Women's Reproductive Health Act that was passed in 2019 when the Senate finally flipped, which he voted no as a minority member. We have a potential for the abolishment of Roe v. Wade. We can't thank New York enough for protecting our women's health, especially if we're going to lose the Affordable Care Act potentially. These are really incredible times that we're facing. It definitely doesn't go far enough, and there's certainly much more that we can do. The funding and the expansion of charter schools and the money that takes out of our public system is unconscionable for what it does to minority children, and the price that pays for every one of us, right? And the false pretenses that privatization model is played. So he sort of plays himself off as a moderate, like he's got talking points on both sides, a little something for everybody. He walks back his support for gun safety because he knows that this is a blue district. This is a district that does have more Democrats than Republicans. He understands he's a marginal member. He's kind of on the ropes. He won't say anything that ties himself too much to Trump. But he is out there putting government now with with Blue Lives Matter, right? And that is sort of an abomination, right? Not that we shouldn't.
It's basically, I mean, it has been what 2 years ago, Martin O'Malley, or 3 years ago, Martin O'Malley was saying openly, like all lives matter, whatever he said. It is now a QAnon slogan. Like, they're selling flags. Like, if you have one of those flags, you are associated with QAnon. So I think this is so important for folks to understand. Like, you're in a Democratic district, and this guy is like one of the leftovers from this era. And folks, like, this is the stuff you got to pay attention to. Christine's voice as a teacher, both of you are teachers, you're union members, you're organizers, you're Bernie Sanders endorsed, you're activists on the ground, you're both involved in environmental politics, which is also an issue that cuts both ways. Christine, you know this. There are Long Island.
And he sells himself as an environmentalist as well. He's got a good record because it's easy to say, I check the boxes on the environment. It's easy to put
but he was in the Republican legislature holding up all the environmental legislation. It's like, it's great to say that, but
sure. And it is not hard to vote right on some of those key bills and come out with a report card. And I say it has to go beyond that, right? We have to have the right legislators doing the right thing for the issues as the minimum, not, that should be the jumping off point, right?
Yeah.
That can't be the only thing. You can't just show up and say that is the only thing that you're doing to earn the trust of the people. What else have you done? And what have you done lately? Certainly as a minority member, you can't deliver the funding that we deserve, and you don't represent the values of our district anymore.
Because we're the majority. So if you go in, just like Fatima, if you go in a majority, if you're not doing something while you're in the majority, and he's obviously in the minority, even if he's for whatever he says he is, you have more power.
Yeah, it goes a little bit beyond that. At this point, our progressive agenda needs a suburban progressive. It needs champions in the suburbs in order to defeat the idea that these are only city progressives that are going to carry these issues, because we have a concentration of liberal or progressive people who live in,
in my neighborhood,
in the urban centers, and in the red districts or the purple districts, people don't go for that. People don't care to support those issues when we know that what we care about are the same things. What we care about is healthcare, the environment, school funding, clean air, clean water, making sure that our communities are safe, that our politicians are not bought by the real estate industry. And by the way, the real estate industry and the billionaires are playing very heavy in making sure that moderates are building a wall and securing their votes to hold off. We need progressives, a coalition to fend off a moderate attack and put forth some of that legislation that we desperately need. If we want a tax code that is going to get the funding for public schools, we need progressives in order to champion that. If we want a New York Health Act that puts forward good health care, we need progressives to do that.
Which is Medicare for all. Yeah.
Right.
So Christine, you know, you're same exact situation. This is, you know, they pound progressives. If you could take in 30,000 to what are the limits in New York? This is going to blow your mind, guys.
Well, the limits in a Senate race are 11,800. So if there's anybody out there with a $10,000 check to pour in, that is an amazing gift at the end. And what happens generally is that everybody coalesces around one or two candidates that they think are the sure thing, right?
That's
so
right.
Everybody pours in and they want to be part of the winning coalition, and we understand that. We all want to see good victories, and we don't want to deny that for sure, but to then spread the wealth, right? Make sure that everybody who has a shot to win should win and can win, because we absolutely have the ability to win. But he's already tied us to Bernie and made that a bad thing. So we think that that's actually a very good thing. We're proud of our ability.
Because you have like a ton of teachers too, right? Like Long Island has more teachers than anywhere in the state.
Yes.
So
but unfortunately,
that's
a little bit of a harangue.
And you're a teacher too. So let's just make this very clear. Teacher running against a Republican who doesn't like Bernie Sanders.
Yes. We've made lots of contacts on the ground with actual everyday teachers who support our effort to be the teacher voice in this race, who want to have a teacher voice in the Senate. And we're very grateful for all of their support. Yes, they
know that they held it up. They held up all the funding.
Yes.
So awesome. Yes. All right, we're going to put all of your links in the descriptions, guys. 11 days. You know, this is how we win elections. If they're going to pound them with negative ads, if they're going to do the smears, this is one thing I really want folks to understand. It is not easy to run as a progressive woman, as a working class woman. You have to hit all these other metrics that, in general, like with Democrats, they're never going to look at you. But then you have to like raise a certain amount of money, have a staff, before even the big progressive names come in and say, okay, now you get the endorsement. It takes so much more work. You don't have all the wealthy friends. You don't have the $11,000 donations or $4,700 donations. And then, you know, you just get enough money, and if you could just take it through the end. So that's what matters. You know, this is when it can really make a difference. So if you have extra funds, please, 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 support candidates like Fatima and Christine, and we'll be highlighting many more in the coming weeks, or in the coming 11 days, I should say, and making sure that we have strong progressive voices in both California and New York who are going to be, if we look to California and New York for leadership because they do have the majority, we need progressive voices there so they can actually push it. And then as these states go, you can do it more in other states. Thanks for watching and listening to The Nomiki Show. But remember to click like and subscribe on YouTube, and please share on social media. If you're not already a patron, please join us for as low as $5 a month on patreon.com/The Nomiki Show for early and special content. That investment makes a huge difference. We are not corporate media raking in the dough. It's really you guys that are keeping us going. So please consider being a patron. And to our current patrons, thank you so much. We are incredibly grateful to you. We also now have swag. So check us out on thenomikishow.com to get your mugs, your totes, and your stickers.